Hello and welcome to episode 50, where we're going to look at a couple of different versions of a microphone that looks suspiciously like a Neumann 107. Now, looking at these, yeah, they do look quite like a Neumann 107. The difference is inside. This one is a 26mm electret, and it comes with an XLR to 3.5mm cable, so it will actually operate off computers and things like that have got DC power, but it'll quite happily operate as it is today off 48 volt phantom. So we've got a 26mm, which is bigger than some, so it's not, it's not really a large diaphragm, is it? But it certainly isn't as small as some of the ones we looked at. I mean, typically those ones tend to be 16 to about 20mm in recording type mics. So this particular one's 26mm, and it was sold to me for about £36. So it's quite cheap. £36, came all the way from China. It doesn't say Neumann on it. It says 107 recording microphone, and you're led to believe it might be a Neumann because they send you a little sticker, like a little curved sticker that you could glue on the front. Now, I'm not prescribing you should do that, of course, because it's not a Neumann. It doesn't say Neumann anywhere on the microphone, and very clearly is an awful lot cheaper than a Neumann. But it also reveals a slight design flaw, because the only way you know which is the front of the microphone is when you plug the XLR cable into it and you can see the release on the XLR facing towards you, and that is the side that you speak into. So on this microphone I had to actually work it out by spinning it around and working out which was the front and which was the back, because there's no maker's name. Now normally on microphones you look for the maker's name or the big emblem on the front of a microphone and you talk into that side. That's the way the sort of convention runs. But on this one, no, I had to do it by pure guesswork. Just rotate it round. One's obviously the back, one's obviously the front, and on this particular one, look for the XLR catch, and that gives the game away. And I suppose if you were daft enough to want to stick one of these little stickers on the front, that would be what you do. Stick it on the front there. Oh, I'm just not going to bother. Now the other one is not an electret. If you hold this up to the light, you can see a bigger capsule, and it's a real one. So in actual fact, it's not an electret style. It is not polarized. It needs the external polarizing voltage from 48 volts, and it will not run on a typical PC type input. So they actually supply it with an XLR to XLR cable, just to make sure that you can't plug it into a computer, because if you did, it wouldn't work. So we've actually got two mics. This one was the grand sum of £56. In one of the other videos, when we had the Seek Nature, that was an electret, and that was about £55 or so. But this one, same sort of money, £56, is getting you a proper capsule, 37mm. So that's hopefully going to make a big difference to the sound. I don't know. It suffers sadly again from the fact that there is no obvious front and back, and I can't see through the grill well enough to determine which is the front, so I still have to plug it in and try it. But I thought what we'll do is we'll put the two mics up against each other. I mean, obviously at the moment you're still listening to me on my SM7B, the one we use for comparisons. But what we will do is plonk these two microphones next door to each other and then have a listen to the difference. I mean, really, 36 to 56, 20 quid difference. If this sounds nice, which with the better capsule it should do, this could be a really nice mic. And it's not breaking the bank at £56, if it sounds good. And I haven't listened yet, so that'll be the next thing on the list. I've got them both plugged up, and the only change I've had to make was to increase the gain very slightly on the 48 volt only version. So the one that's got the 37mm diaphragm needed a slight increase in gain. I mean, we're talking a very small amount, between, it was 5.5 on the control on the electret one. I've had to increase it to 6, and that's on a zoom. So it's not really very much, but it's probably worth noting that they're not exactly the same. So what do we got? The two mics in the shock holders, they're exactly the same. The XLR catch is facing me on both of them, so the front surface is where the XLR push button goes. Probably if I was keeping these microphones, I might be tempted to stick a bit of tape on the front. But from where I'm sitting here, I really can't see the difference. Just detect that that's the big one, that's the small one. So £36, £56, 26, 37mm. That's the two mics. Now, at the moment, we're on the SM7B. So we'll switch across first to the electret version. So now you're listening to me on the 107 mic. So it's the 107 mic that's actually got a 26mm diaphragm and costs the princely sum of £35. So that's pretty decent, I think, isn't it? Let's switch to the other one. We're now on the 37mm capsule, and the 37mm capsule at 56 quid is the one that we're listening to now. So there appears to be a difference. It's not actually as much as I expected. So that's a bit of a surprise. I think the larger one is a slightly more rounded sound. That's probably fair to say that. But the difference is not as marked as I thought, and certainly it's nowhere near as bright as the Seek Nature small diaphragm that we looked at the other day. If we look at the two visually, there is nothing at all in it. Now, shock mount wise, the shock mount on both of them is identical, and although it looks like it's made out of metal, it's actually plastic. So they're both quite decent. I mean, the elastics seem perfectly strong enough to hold them up. There are a few mould marks on them, but I mean, at the price, I can't really blame them for that. But the shock mount does do the job. The elastics hold it up. I can tighten them up enough that it doesn't droop. They're fairly heavy mics, of course, which means that the boom arm that the bigger version is attached to was tending to droop, so I've had to tighten it up a fair amount to keep it level. It did get the droops when I first put it on, but it's okay. I rather like these. I don't see the necessity to stick a badge on it because I'm quite convinced it's not going to convince anybody. But on the other hand, they're quite stylish mics. I mean, the Neumann 107 went away from the sort of straight lines of the majority of the Neumann brands in the way that they make the windshield section, so the mesh and the frame that the mesh attaches to. On here, it's got curves and it's quite nice, but they're not bad looking mics at all. And for the price, you have to make your mind up. I mean, while we've been talking, we've been flashing across from 1 to 1, so I'm hoping you get a pretty reasonable feel for the difference in the sound these two are producing. So that pretty much sums it up for these, doesn't it? We've got two mics, two different types of element inside. The capsules are different style, different design. I'll give them a gentle tap so that you can get a feel for how they respond to being touched. So this is the small diaphragm. And if we switch to the other one, this is the same thing. Go back. Go back. It's okay, I think, isn't it? I mean, pretty much what you'd expect. But we have two mics, two different price points, two different sounds. But all in all, I think I'm quite positive on these ones. Anyway, that's enough for today. This is episode 50. Episode 51 is going to feature yet another microphone that we can have a look at. Another quite cheap and weird looking one. But until we see you on that one, click the subscribe button, ring the bell thing, and you'll get the notifications. So see you on the next video. Look after yourselves and take care.